Unlike a smaller boat, which is one of the reasons why we decided to downsize in boats, you just don't take your 100-foot boat out for a tool around the neighborhood on a Sunday afternoon. For us, it was about a 2 to 2.5 hour checklist from the time we decided to move off the dock to the time we were actually moving off the dock. So that's how long it took to get all the systems, everything on board. Yeah, so it was about 2.5 hours. Besides, you know, the route planning, which we've talked about, the actual logistics of moving, getting an oil change done, getting provisions on board, getting watchkeepers, because we would bring watchkeepers in so we could run the vessel 24 hours, 7 days, or 24 hours while we're underway. You need to have somebody on watch the entire time. And I don't like doing it with 1 or 2 people unless it's a shorter trip. When you're doing a 3 or 4 day trip, I think it's a really good idea to run with like 4 or 5 people. So that way everybody's getting time at the helm, but everybody's also getting time to relax. So it took several weeks to kind of, you know, put everything together in order for that to happen.
So today is engine oil change day on Bravo. We've kind of alluded to this in the past, but we're actually going to show you what we're going to do today. We have to do an engine oil change about every 150 to 200 hours. So relatively speaking, every single time we go up and down the East Coast, it's about 150 hours. So that's what you'll see today. So conservatively speaking, we have 60 gallons of oil. You'll see some of the oil here and stacked up over there as well. And then we have all the filters, which are down here. So you'll be seeing exactly what we're doing today. So 60 gallons of oil. We'll be changing both the engine oil, the transmission oils, and the generator oils, and then changing all the filters as well. So you get to see that as well. So enjoy. So now we're changing the primary fuel filters for the engines. With diesel engines, they gotta have clean fuel. So you actually have primary fuel filters, and then you'll have secondary fuel filters. So this is what the primary fuel filter looks like. It's big, and you can again see how dirty compared to a new one. Take a look at this one. So this one's really dirty, as you can see. And the reason we have 2 of them is if one gets clogged while we're underway, we can switch it to the other one, or we can actually change the filters while we're underway, because the boat is designed to run for 20, 30, 40 days non-stop if we're going out in the Pacific and that sort of thing. We actually will have to do an oil change while we're underway. So about every 150 to 200 hours, which is about every 10 days or so, we would have to actually do an oil change while we're underway at sea. And that's why we have oil tanks and that sort of thing on board. Doing the oil change on the generator, we haven't actually done the oil change yet. We've actually changed the oil filter. And we're going to change the fuel filter, so to kind of see what a new fuel filter looks like. This is a new fuel filter for, we call it a rate port. So that's what it looks like. This is what the old one looks like. You'll kind of see how dirty the fuel gets. And if you look over there, Andrew is working very hard, and we're actually pumping out all the oil right now in buckets. So the main engines take 20 gallons of oil. We do have an oil change system on board this vessel, but unfortunately it dumps it into tanks. And then we have to have a truck pull up next to the vessel and pump out the oil tank. So this way is just easy. We have a small pump that pumps the oil out, and then we'll pump the oil back in. Okay, so we're changing the oil filters now on the engines. There's 2 of them for each engine. They're about this size. And as you can see how dirty they get. That's an old one, and that's the new one. Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
60 gallons of oil, 23 filters is what it took to do an oil change on Bravo. And you can see here the, this is actually after the oil change. You can actually see everything sitting on the dock, the 60 gallons of oil and all the filters and the bags and everything else. So about every time we moved the boat from south to north, we would end up having to do an oil change. So it was something necessary that we had to do. And then we would send all of the oil out to be, all the used oil, we would take samples of it all, and we'd send it out for oil analysis, because that's how you determine the health of your engines and your transmissions, and you see if there's any problems that are coming up. So that's what we did.
Today is departure day, and our food was just delivered because I quit cooking when we do departures because it's just too much work and we never leave the day we're supposed to leave. So we hired Hey Jeff, the chef. So he did a 3-day meal planner for us. So this is what we got. We are not on diets. We are on the COVID diet right now. So you can see what we got going on here. And let me show you what I got going on in the fridge. I labeled everything for everybody. So you got the chicken and pierogies, you got the barbecue pork, you've got pepper steak and noodles, which was cooked sous vide style. We got chicken tikka masala and chana masala, shrimp and scallop linguine and a sambuca sauce. We got breakfast sandwiches for everyone. We do a lot of bread in case anybody gets sick. We have breakfast quiches. At the top up here, we have some bread pudding, and we have a giant fruit salad and a cucumber salad. When you open the drawer down here, we got molten lava cakes, and we have this cool, whatever that's called. It's called the strawberry pretzel dessert, something like that. So anyway, we have all sorts of stuff in here. It's enough meals for 4 people for 3 meals.
If you think about it, on the trip that you saw from Clearwater to Baltimore, we had 7 people and 2 dogs on board for 5.5 to 6 days, 150, 175 meals, a lot of food, a lot of drinks. If you figure, everyone's drinking a couple of bottles of water a day, a couple of, sodas per day, and you're running shifts 24/7. So we used to, go out and try to buy food, and we would have chefs make food, and at the end of the day, we ended up coming up with Carrabba's. Yep, Carrabba's. That's what ended up working the best. We just found it was Carrabba's, for some reason, did a great job. They have a real variety of food, and pretty much all the ports that we went to, we'd find a Carrabba's, and we could put in our order like a day ahead, and literally we would drop off the type of packages we want them to put all the food in, and they were absolutely amazing. So the puppies. So as you've probably seen in the video so far, we have 2 puppies, Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. Well, there's no real replacement for it, I guess, is real sod. The dogs just appreciate that much. So Home Depot and Lowe's, those sorts of places, they end up selling sod in plastic trays. So it was really nice. It was easy for us. And we would lay out a 12 by 12 area, roughly thereabout, depending upon how long the trip is. We would end up laying out the sod for the trip and putting a tarp underneath. And the dogs really liked it. So if you take a look at my visibility, I don't really have any visibility heading aft. So I do use a camera system which shows the back of the vessel there. But again, my visibility is kind of limited. So really, how I back up the vessel is by just listening to my crew members when they tell me what we're doing. So basically, it's all by ear. So that's the visibility that I'm dealing with right back there when I back up the vessel, and then with a little bit of the camera shot there. So that's how we back it up.
This is Captain G Wiz with your G Wiz information of the day. Docking can be challenging sometimes, unless you have some practice. Prepare your lines and fenders. Make sure you know where you're going. Slow down when coming into a dock. After all, docking is just controlled crashing. Make sure you know your wind and current direction, as well as the speed of both. You want to make them your friend, not your enemy. And most importantly, do not panic. Panicking is like a wildfire that spreads from captain to crew to even dockhands. There's no shame in backing up and giving it another go if you have to. Now, let's look at some examples of what happens when you don't follow those rules. Cracked hull, that's a new one. Not sure how they managed that one. Make sure to follow those rules so you don't end up like those guys back there. Now, let me break down this video you're about to see. We were coming into Sweetwater Landing Marina in Fort Myers, Florida. As you can see, it's a pretty tight spot for a 100-foot boat. We took a wide angle so that we could basically parallel park along the dock. Not much room to move, so you'll see in the video communication is key in a scenario like this. We'll be showing you multiple angles from our docking at Sweetwater Landing Marina. That way you could see what every crew member is doing throughout the entire process. Captain G-Wiz out.
Are the fenders out? Okay, coming back. Jens, how am I looking on the angle? Okay. Is the angle good now? How's my approach speed? Okay. So what you can see here is that we're docking to a very tight situation. Once we're in the dock, we would have only about 4 feet to our stern and about 3 feet to our bow, and that's how tight this spot was in order to back this boat in. Again, I'm using I do have a camera system, which you're seeing here, as I'm slowly backing the boat in. You know, the saying in boating is you never want to go any faster than you want to hit something. Now, our crew member who's on our stern is throwing our line to the dock right now, which is going to be a forward spring. And what that's going to do is it's going to prevent us from moving aft anymore. So we're basically locking in the ability for us to move any closer to that boat. And that's, spring lines tend to be some of the more important lines to get on right away, at least for Bravo it is, especially on the stern. So they're tossing the line on now, and what I'm slowly doing is I'm thrusting the bow over. As you can see, bow slowly coming over right now. We've got our clearance, and now you see our bow lines being tossed on to the dock. And so this is a good example of a really close quarter docking when you only have a few feet on either end. It's a very slow, methodical process. It's really important for you have a good crew briefing ahead of time so that everybody knows exactly what you're doing, what you expect of them, and what they're expecting of you. And that's how you make one of these evolutions successful.
On the next episode, join us on our final trip on Bravo from Baltimore to Cape Canaveral, and then 1 month later from Cape Canaveral to Fort Lauderdale. We left late at the beginning of December, a less than ideal time to travel south along the East Coast. We spent 3.5 days battered by 40-knot winds and 10 to 15-foot seas. But no matter, calm seas never make good captains. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the channel grow, please leave a like, comment, share with your friends, and subscribe. And if you haven't seen it already, click the link for our previous video. See you next time.